Hello and welcome to my review for the 2006 adaptation of Higurashi by Studio Dean. This is actually my second time recording this. My first time I was way too rambly and it was a pretty bad video, so hopefully I'll make this a bit more concise. If you're new to this channel completely, you're just here for the review, welcome. We do anime reactions, game stuff, visual novel stuff, basically a lot of weeb shit on this channel. So and if you want to watch the reaction, there's also on the channel, along with the full read-through of the visual novel, the Higurashi visual novel. That being said, this is a very important distinction to make. Going into the anime, I've already read the visual novel, so I was coming from a perspective of knowing the complete plot and stuff. So it's a very different experience for me than people just watching the anime blind. So I think that's a pretty important distinction to make. Because, you know, I'm not watching for like the twists and turns, I'm watching to see how well they do adapting the story. So my view will always be different than people that just watch the anime. So just, you know, just to make that distinction. Just during the reaction, I also tried to put myself in the view of a person who has only watched the anime, but overall, it's just me imagining things, right? Like I can't get that full perspective. And I guess slight spoiler warning if I end up spoiling something that's just not in the anime by accident, but I don't really plan to. But yeah, hopefully you will enjoy. So we'll split this up into different parts. First, let's talk about the story. I'm not going to talk about the plot of Higurashi because, like I said, I didn't really watch it for that, because I already knew. I mean, if you want me to say something, I think the plot is great. Higurashi is a great story, and this channel is like basically built around Higurashi for the main part, as its primary focus for a while, I would say. But yeah, it's a great story, and I think the adaptation did a pretty good job at it. I mean, maybe I should say first what was my overall opinion of the adaptation, and I liked it. I had a great time. I know there were a couple people, I don't want to say a lot, maybe a lot in terms of comments I get, but I know there was definitely some people who did not like the adaptation. To be fair, there was also people who didn't like the Go adaptation, which is understandable for the original. I have no idea about Go. That's something we'll get to in the future. And like I said, I understand that. For like the first 3-4 episodes, I was definitely like, in my head, you know, even though I'm a pretty positive person, I was like, this is not great. This is not a great experience. Maybe I should have just watched Go. I mean, people decided because I put a poll, but I wasn't exactly loving my time, just mainly because of the pacing and how it just felt worse than the story. But I think it's just a natural mindset to have. I don't know if there's a word for it, but in general, like a rule of thumb is a version of a story with more details is usually better than a less detailed version. That's why a lot of people hold the opinion that the original book is better than the movie, blah blah blah. I don't know, Harry Potter book series is better than the movie series. Stuff like that. So I think that's a natural opinion to have, though, and it's hard to break out of that mindset. But eventually, you know, because I said I would do it, and you know, I'm pretty open to watching stuff, so I wasn't gonna drop it or anything. When you kind of get rid of that mindset and kind of just accept it for what it is and just enjoy it, it becomes pretty enjoyable. I mean, there's definitely some hiccups along the road. But overall, I think it was pretty well done. To be fair, like, I mean, I'm not a freaking script writer, director for an anime or whatever, but I do think the Higurashi visual novel is pretty hard to get to adapt like better, which might be a hot take. I don't know. Again, don't really have any experience just because of how much it's filled with thinking, you know, instead of like talking and stuff. Not like I would say probably like in each arc 50% of it, maybe except for the later arcs, are just the character thinking and stuff, and it's usually in anime you don't have a lot of thinking scenes like that, and like there's hints and stuff which would like kind of ruin the flow of the anime. There's like a lot of details that I don't think can be animated properly, so give kudos for that from my at least in my opinion. But I guess the question is, since we're talking about story, how well was it shown through the anime? And I think one of the commenters a while back kind of nailed it on the head before I even watched it. Basically described the anime as more of a thriller than a mystery. I mean, I definitely also think Higurashi in general is more of a thriller than a mystery, because when I was reading the visual novel, you know, it's kind of natural to compare to like Umineko, its sister series, which is way more of a mystery than Higurashi is in general. But the anime compared to the visual novel is definitely more of a thriller than mystery. Again, probably a result of them having to cut a lot of details, having to cut the hints and stuff. So it's definitely a different experience, and you know, for anime viewers, I wouldn't blame them for not trying to solve the mystery. I know there are that do solve the mystery, obviously, but yeah, I think it's just presented differently. And again, I think it might be for the best that they chose the thriller side over the mystery side, just because it's hard to adapt. But overall, I thought it was pretty good. It followed the story well. Obviously, like I said, it's a much faster pace and there's a lot of cut stuff, but I would say the majority of the cuts are good cuts. And by good cuts, I mean they cut the story for time length, but don't really ruin the story. Like, a lot of good examples is they do cut the club activity stuff, which is great. I mean, it's one of my favorite things in the visual novel. But as a story, it really doesn't affect the story much, besides, I wouldn't even say developing characters, more just familiarizing yourself with the characters. So it's probably the most cuttable stuff. Then there's cuts that which it would, again, they're the same cuts that they cut well and they don't affect the story, but I personally don't like the cuts because I really love the scene. I think a prime example of that is at the end of the Higurashi anime arc. One of the scenes I was really looking forward to was the chase scene when Rena chases Keiichi around Hinamizawa with the cleaver. They completely cut that, which made me sad because it was such a great scene, but in the end it didn't really affect the story. They basically cut it out, but they pieced it together well, so it doesn't actually affect the story. So overall, there's a lot of those moments. I would say there are a couple moments that are bad cuts. Like in the set, you know, just because it's kind of recent on the mind, the second last episode of Sumi Horoboshi, where they cut the setup and introduction for the police versus the Sonozakis, which I thought was bad. There was where they cut after they reveal Keiichi's backstory when Rena confronts him about it, and then he tells his friends. They cut his explanation of it, which was pretty bad too. Just made him seem like an asshole compared to the visual novel, and I think those are bad cuts just because they changed the story in a negative way, while the other ones might change the story slightly, but overall I don't think it's like a negative change. But yeah, overall, cuts were fine. It's kind of funny, they cut a lot of, I noticed they cut a lot of the endings of the arc. Maybe because, again, I don't know their mindset, but I think they were purposely trying to remove some of the mystery stuff too. Like maybe they were directly in the mindset of making a thriller, just because like a lot of the endings that were cut kind of add on to this mystery aspect, which they don't have. Also, by the way, before I get into this, totally forgot, they did cut a lot of the footstep stuff too, which was like a mystery that went over. It kind of overlapped with a bunch of arts, and they only really showed it in Higurashi. Kind of like they kind of showed it, but it wasn't really like. I wouldn't blame people for not catching on to the footstep stuff, to be honest. I'm sure they're gonna reveal the footstep stuff in Kai, and it probably won't affect people too much, because I doubt people have that in their mind. Again, I'm just imagining stuff, but that's what I think. But yeah, they surprisingly, besides Honor Kakashi and Watanagashi, from Higurashi and on, they kind of cut the endings, which is an interesting choice. Like in Higurashi, they cut the part where Keiichi survives getting yeeted off the bridge by Satoko, and like wandering around and finding a bunch of army guys throwing dead bodies in a truck. Instead, they just kind of condense it into a news report, which was kind of lame, but again, it kind of works the same because they mentioned how the whole village was wiped out by a gas attack, but it falls into the category of it's an alright cut, but I just don't like it because it's a cool scene. Himitsubushi, we'll talk about Himitsubushi separately in just a minute because that's definitely a discussion point. Mayakashi, they cut the part where Shion gave a really epic, well, they found Shion's journal and there was a really epic monologue, and they cut the blessed future where Shion and Satoko actually became friends, which again isn't important, but it was a cool scene. And in Sumi Horoboshi, they cut the part, spoilers, but I mean, you should know it's spoilers just because I literally just responded to a person saying they're trying to finish the visual novel, but they did cut the part at the end where you find out the next day, even after Keiichi saved Rena, Rika still got killed the night she was walking home, and then the village also got wiped out by a gas attack. But yeah, just pointing out some cuts. Again, I would point you towards the anime reaction, because at the end of every episode, I go over the episode and do some comparisons to the visual novel counterpart. So if you're interested in specific scenes, you can always check out the anime reactions on the channel, and just skip towards the end after the reaction itself if you want clear specific examples, or you can just comment on the comments and I will try to respond. But yeah, I guess we should also talk about Himitsubushi, the fourth arc. Probably my least favorite aspect of the anime adaptation, because it was the only arc that was completely gutted. Most of its contents were just completely cut, and I am sad. I mean, you can definitely argue it's fine for them to cut it, because it's quote unquote the least important and least favorite arc, which I understand if people think it's the least favorite arc. I mean, it's literally not the least important. Even if the author mentioned it in the visual novel, I'm pretty sure he was just baiting you until the end when you realize, oh my god, Himitsubushi is actually like the most important arc, and I didn't know because the author said it was the least important. But I like Himitsubushi. It's a different vibe because of the adult main cast. It feels much like a Japanese Yakuza police movie, which I love. You got Akasaka, which I assume is probably a lot of people's favorite non-club member character, side character. It's just a great time, and sadly it was not a great time watching it in the anime adaptation. I mean, the only bright side is the part where Akasaka knee-pod to Rika, but again, that's definitely the black spot in the anime for me. Guess we can move on. Music, I kind of just mentioned it in a comment I was responding to, but overall, the music's not exactly memorable for me. There are definitely times where I'm like, hey, this kind of bops. But overall, nothing like really sticks into my head. And I always say that whenever I say this in a review, in post editing, when I, add in some background music from the series to, I don't know, just to keep it a little more interesting. I literally freaking every time I have to comment, actually guys, after in editing, the music actually bops, so I'm sure the soundtrack's pretty good. I mean, it's Higurashi. It's just that the visual novel soundtrack was so good that the fact that this didn't use the same soundtrack immediately kind of made me less interested. That being said, a visual novel definitely needs a stronger soundtrack, and they use it more frequently than an anime does, so yeah. Overall, the soundtrack wasn't my favorite, but I'm pretty sure it's good. I guess also we can talk about opening ending. Since I kind of talked about it in my Cheer Boys review, which isn't going to be up in a couple weeks, just because of how this is, how the schedule is, but I recorded that already. Opening, it's a good opening for sure. Out of the 3 anime I watched on this channel, which is this, Cheer Boys, and ID Invaded, Cheer Boys definitely wins in the opening. You don't have to watch Cheer Boys, but check out the opening. It's really freaking catchy. Soundtrack, I honestly would also just give it to Cheer Boys again. But ending, I'll definitely give that to Higurashi. I loved the Higurashi ending theme. I thought it was so good. Sad to see that though once we get into Tai. But yeah, I'll give Higurashi for now a good on the music department, but just look at the comment box I made. There's a decent chance you'll see me mentioning that the music is better than I thought in the yeah. I guess art style, I mean, going into it I wasn't expecting like an amazing animation performance. It is Studio Dean. They're not exactly known for great animation, no disrespect to Studio Dean. I always used to kind of disrespect them when I was a kid just because there's a lot of bad things, but they've definitely made some classics that I haven't watched, but a great example is their Fate series where they did Stay Night, kind of. I mean, they kind of just combined all the arts and called it Stay Night. And they did the Unlimited Blade Works movie. And just comparing this to that, obviously, Higurashi looks like a freaking masterpiece. But I think I was fine with the animation. There's definitely a lot of janky moments, but I guess I'm the type of guy where even if it gets janky, whether it's fitting when it's like a creepy scene and there's like some creepy jank, if it's not, it's just kind of funny and I'm enjoying myself anyways. And I also kind of like to give it a little bit more of a pass since this is based off the original Higurashi artwork, and I'm personally used to the Alchemist sprites. I don't know the name, the one you install with the 7th mod expansion, but that the original art was kind of janky too, so I kind of forgive them. I mean, yeah, I'm fine with the art. But I can see why if you don't like it. If you're not fine with the jank, then it's perfectly understandable. Character design, I mean, they all looked pretty good. Again, because it's based off the original art, some characters might be differently designed than what I'm personally used to. Like Kumadai, who didn't have a sprite art, so he just looks like a completely different person than what I know. Maybe in Kai he'll look different, hoping. But it's fine. Everything's pretty good. The only like really surprising thing was the fact that Mion has a freaking gun strapped to her, because that was not part of the sprites I was reading with, so I was like totally caught off guard. But that is in the original sprites for whatever reason. It's kind of funny. And I mean, even I think I mentioned it in the reactions, I actually like Oishi and Takano's design better in the anime adaptation. They look nice. Also, a side note, I'm just saying, Mion definitely looks a little more endowed than she did in the visual novel. I'm just pointing it out, just saying. Maybe that's why they gave her the cow cosplay in OVA. I guess I should talk about the OVA too. I thought it was actually like pretty great because it kind of takes the elements that were really cut from the adaptation and put it into the OVA episode. They have the first half is just fun club activities with some punishment games, some funny cosplays. Again, Cow Mion, Blessed, Chinese Satoto, I think, what was it, Nurse Cat Rita. Anyways, good stuff. And then in the second half, it felt a lot like a Hint, which is, again, stuff also that wasn't put on. So they put like the fun club activities and the hints elements that wasn't in the main story. So I actually really enjoyed it. I thought they did a great time with the OVA. Anything else? I mean, favorite characters. My opinion didn't really change too much from the visual novel on favorite characters. I mean, top two, Satoto, Rika. Oh, no. Sorry, Rita, but Satoto Mion. Third, just to spice it up, someone who's not in the club. I mean, Takano is the answer, but it's not Takano until Minagoroshi and Matsuri Bayashi. I could say Oishi, but there's just not enough Oishi in this, so maybe I'll just say Shion. I was never really the biggest Shion fan in the visual novel just because I'm a huge Mion fan, and if you like one, you kind of don't exactly like the other as much, right? But definitely appreciated Shion more in this. So yeah, there you go. Shion moves up in my anime adaptation of Higurashi. I guess it's important to note that favorite arts. Let's talk about favorite anime arts. I mean, Mayatashi's just great. Like I said, they did the thriller aspect better, and Mayatashi's just full violence and spooky stuff. It's good. Mayatashi is definitely the best. I mean, I like Mayatashi in the visual novel. I know some people at least in my comments hated Mayatashi in the visual novel, but it's definitely really well done in the anime adaptation. I also like Tsumi. Yeah, maybe I don't like Tsumi as much, but I did like the Gore in Tsumi was definitely, that wins the Gore award. Don't believe me? Just look up Teppei and Rina's death scenes, dude. They're actually horrifying. And whatever you can say about the fast pace, I know the majority of the visual novel readers probably won't like it as much. I do think, like in scenes like the fight scene at the end of Sumi Horoboshi, it actually works a bit better, because there's definitely times when Higurashi lays. Like the fight scene I didn't like in the visual novel because it was like freaking 30-40 minutes long. But in the anime, it's only like 5-6 minutes, so it's great. Faster paced is great sometimes. But yeah, Mayatashi is definitely my favorite. I guess my second favorite, probably Watanadashi, then Anutakishi, then Totodoroshi. Might be a hot take. I know Totodoroshi is a lot of people's favorites in the visual novel, but I've always been kind of in the middle with Totodoroshi in general. And then, like I said earlier, they cut some cool stuff from Totodoroshi, so I'm just gonna put it in the middle again. Obviously Himitsubushi is the worst. I think that's all I got. Yeah, overall, I had a great time, dude. Once you look past some issues, you're just happy to see Higurashi anime adapted. There's definitely scenes that, I don't get all my perfect scenes, and some scenes don't feel as good as the visual novels, but when the scenes feel better, you're like, yo, this is sick. And the OVA is great because it's original Higurashi content. I was like super excited to experience some new Higurashi stuff, which makes me kind of excited for next season because I think that's like it's 24, 26 episodes, and they're not gonna just do Higurashi and Matsubayashi, I assume, in those. So I know there's a beach episode, dude. I'm waiting for the beach episode. But yeah, that's all I got. Again, thank you for watching. If you have any comments or you want me to talk about something specific that I did not talk about in the review, then just peep it in the comments. I'll be more than happy to reply. But that's all for now. If you're a Higurashi viewer, you should probably see the update in the front of my channel talking about when Kai will start. But yeah, eventually we will do Kai and a review then. You know, it's a lot of Higurashi on the horizon. By the time we finish Go, I'm sure Go sequel will be done, so. And then at the end of it all, we can finally react. We can finally read Canadian Higurashi, the best version of Higurashi. Yeah, but that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you're new here, again, hit that subscribe button for... There's a lot of Higurashi content on the channel and upcoming. And... Oops. Oh no. Ignore me. Ignore me. This is what you get for playing with stuff while recording. I mean, you didn't notice anything, but that was weird. But yeah, if you're new here, consider subscribing. We have a lot of Higurashi content and some other stuff you might enjoy. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully see you again. Bye!